Welcome to another Figure Week, Hard Surface Week, Organic Week.
Hey everyone, my name is Ahmed Al-Douri. I'm a concept artist and former instructor at Art Center College of Design, Brainstorm, CCS, CGMA, and various other places. And I would like to introduce to you this digital painting course that I've created. But before we get into anything, I just want to thank you for the support you've all given me this whole time. And with the support of so many of you, I've been able to put together everything I know about painting into this digital painting course. You want to become a pro illustrator, concept artist, or even just a hobbyist, but you don't have a clear map to get there. And that's where I come in. I spent the last 6 months compiling everything I know from my 20 years of art practice, and I've turned it all into a map. Starting with foundations such as rendering shapes, color theory, painting basic subjects, understanding brushwork, brush economy, all that fun stuff, deconstructing the skull, drawing it from every angle, all the way to master studies, stylized painting, and you'll find yourself at the end of the course doing a concept art project based on everything that we learn in the first 14 lessons. So how does it work? Well, you sign up, you watch the lectures, do the assignments, post them to the community page if you want, and treat it as a self-study, except for those of you who have signed up for the weekly meeting, where I personally critique your work in a virtual classroom setting. I believe learning by repetition is super important. That's what I've sort of presented a lot in this course, and the assignments are tailored for that, as adapted from my time teaching at Art Center. And each of these lessons have step-by-step explanations in real time. If you've ever seen my videos, you know exactly how I teach. And this course is intended to be a substitute for a college level course, but you don't have to pay the $4,000 or $5,000 per class, racking up maybe $200K in debt. With my custom design course, you'd be paying a fraction of that. And of course, I also have payment plan options if you don't want to pay for the whole thing at once. Thank you for watching this, and I'll see you soon.
Hey guys, welcome back to Digital Artcast. Thanks again for tuning in for another episode. I hope again, where you are in the world, you are safe and being creative as always. Thanks again to people who have been joining the Discord recently and also putting in suggestions for guests. I am paying attention to each and every one of them and obviously trying my best to reach out to people to get interviews sorted. But of course, in the way the world is just now, and with people of course having busy lifestyles, I'm waiting on people getting back to me. So, but I am listening, just to let you guys know. Thanks again to the people in Discord who've been posting work as well and sharing their thoughts on art. It's been great to see you guys interacting. And of course, again, any suggestions or comments down below in any of the channels, either be YouTube or the Discord, or any feedback on the show is always appreciated. So again, it's one of these things where we usually have amazing podcast guests and people on. It's one of these things where, I always try to get and source the best guests I can. In this case, I think I found one of the small gems in the rough at this point, one of these artists that I think people maybe even sometimes miss, but I definitely have had my eye on them for a long, long time, going back to even 2015. So, I mean, yeah, there's definitely history there. Today we are talking to Mr. Henrik Rosenborg. So, hey Henrik, how's it going, buddy?
Hey guys.
Hello.
It's going well.
Awesome. Yeah, we had a small blip there on my internet for some reason. It kind of cut and then went back on. So
Yeah, I noticed. That's
praying
why.
that it just keeps going. So it seems to have kept its stride. So fingers crossed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's hope it goes.
Yeah. So we go back a while. I think unlike other guests, because we started hanging out in a kind of sketch group that was I think goes back to about 2015. And then we were kind of hanging out there doing sketches,
Yeah.
you know, learning, grinding, and all that kind of stuff. Funny enough, I think it was the grind, right? That was the group we were on.
Yeah, there was. Yeah, I was thinking if it was like Artcore or the grind. I don't remember. It was so
I
many.
think a mix of both, probably, because Artcore kind of came first, didn't it? Oh my god, this is terrible. Hold on, I'm going to pause it the next 2 seconds.
Right.
Yeah, so it was. I think Artcore or the grind. It was one of them. I think it was one of these things. Did Artcore not come first, and then it kind of faded, and then the grind was what replaced it? It was something like that,
I don't
wasn't it?
remember. I just remember I was in college or something, and you started to see all these groups pop up about.
Yeah, groups. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah,
and it was. I don't know. It was it was fun. It was really like a lot of energy.
Yeah.
And I think you need a lot of that.
Or momentum. Yeah. I mean, like it's the same. I mean, you're part of the Discord group that I've kind of started to build, which is it's less kind of amateurish, like people just anybody just coming in. It's more focused for professionals. So like a lot of people in there are like art directors or lead singers, which is good. That it's kind of like a mini networking thing I'm trying to organize as well, because I think at one point I'd love to do an event at one point and have people come and Control G would be maybe one of them, but it's a big thing to organize as well, we know, because the guys like Daniel and stuff who run in shorter shops have kind of put that on the back burner for a while, because it was basically taking up like most 60-70% of their time to organize.
Yeah, I remember you told me, and he wanted to focus it differently. Backwater Busters instead. And I understand that very well, but I don't know. It was a shame because it was a nice event. It's really cool.
Yeah, it was definitely one of the biggest and better ones in the UK. Although I know Vertex is now kind of like taking that mantle to an extent, like it's one of the bigger ones in London. And I know Concept 101. Have you heard of that yet?
I don't keep track of any of the events really.
So there's the guys who run it are in the Discord, and they are running an event called Concept 101, and it's happening on the 9th of September, and it's free to attend, so you can buy tickets online, they're free. The only condition is you need to get there yourself, obviously, you need to get to the event in London, but there's no cost of the event, but it's only one day, and I think it's quite a bare bones thing where they're having speakers come and do portfolio reviews and do talks on stages and stuff.
Like not as extensive as.
Yeah, it's not a couple of days, and it's no like maybe don't have bigger names coming internationally and stuff like that, but they do have a good few names, especially from the UK, like Sandra and stuff like that, and a couple other people are speaking. ILM's going to be there, and I think the Brainbug guys as well. So Jamie Clapton's kind of small company that he formed after leaving Rare. So there's a couple of people going to be there. So there's at least there's that. But like, yeah, I think Vertex is one of the bigger ones because that's like run by a company as opposed to just like individuals. So and that covers everything. It's not just concept. It's also like 3D and software stuff like that.
Cool.
So yeah, there's a few. I mean, still, I think the biggest ones are like THU and Playgrounds. I think they're still two of the biggest.
Oh yeah. But you used to go to a lot of them, right?
All of them, yeah. Pre-pandemic, I was just coming back from Lightbox in LA. So I went there and got to tour Blizzard and Riot and a couple other places and hang out with some of my buddies for America.
That's awesome.
Raph, all those kind of guys. It was great. It was a lot of fun. But it's the pandemic kind of put a stop to that. So I mean, I've just not had the funds as well. I mean, I was lucky I got help to go to Lightbox. But then THU and stuff like that are still a lot of cash as well, so it's money at the moment. It's just trying to organize that. It is
expensive, and especially if you go to that many as you were. Jesus Christ.
Yeah. I mean, I was trying to go as many as I could at the point, but some of them I was getting like help to go, and some of them I was like winning tickets, and then other ones I was like just turning up on the day and hoping I could get in. Yeah, there was a few good ones, but I was glad I done it at the time because it definitely made a lot of contacts for me, and a lot of people I now know well are because of those events. So, Yeah, I mean, you've obviously been busy. I think just grinding in general, right? You probably don't want to a ton of them because you've just
I've
been
been to
working,
one,
right?
and that was the one where we met.
Oh, okay. And it's your
Yeah,
workshops.
that was the one, and that was because Daniel invited me.
Yeah. Yep. I remember seeing your name on the docket. I was like, yeah, about time. So
to come there and paint some.
I think I actually bumped into you and went, oh, hey, buddy. And
Yeah.
you were walking towards doing your demo, I think. So,
I was very nervous, I remember, but went well. It was fun.
Yeah. I mean, like, I mean, as long as it's been done, I think the more you do these things, you just naturally gain an affinity to get, I mean, I'm just one of these people who I talk, and I'm
You're
very confident about just
clearly
like
very good at networking and
yeah. I mean, it's worked to my advantage, but yeah, it's one of these things that I just wish the other part came easy to me as well, the art side of it. But I mean, I think it has. I think it will. I think it does. It's just that the focus has been hard for me because it's been trying to just steer my direction of where do I want to end up, what I want to do, and I think it's very natural for somebody who leaves university, in their early 20s, they spend a couple of years thinking, what do I want to do in my life? Where do I want to aim? What direction do I want to go? It's harder for me because I'm in my 30s and people see it as a weird thing. But like, I think if I was 10 years younger, people would see it as, quite normal. But
people always have
who
a lot
cares?
of
Age is a thing.
opinions about everything. So
Yes, they do.
shouldn't be too concerned with that.
No, definitely no. But I digress. We're kind of talking about me now. But so you've been drawing your ass off for the last 6-7 years, something like that. Longer?
Yeah, but I think it's around 10.
Wow,
that I've been
a
working.
while.
Yeah, really, really hard. I haven't done much else, honestly. And I don't know. I wasn't thinking too much about like, do I want to do 3D? Do I want to do that? I was like 2D.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm gonna do. I was so set on that. And like, I just wanted to,
Make your shit.
make my shit and get, make others see what
Mm-hmm.
what I wanted to show them, and being able to get hired to do what I wanted and make a living out of it. And yeah, it's been very very hard. A lot of work. It didn't come for free. Tell you that much.
No, and people see that as a thing where they're, to the outside people, they'll say, "Oh, you must be so talented that you can, do this for money, and it must have came so easy to you." And you're like, "No, it took a long fucking time." Yeah,
God.
yeah. But then you went to school specifically for it, right? You were talking about college a couple of years back. Is that what you were studying? Was
No,
illustration?
I studied
Oh,
game
okay.
design.
Ah, okay, interesting.
But
Right, okay.
that was a stupid thing because I thought game design was, designing graphics for games. But the first
Right.
lecture, they were like, explained, what game design was. I was like, fuck. I remember I was like, oh no. But my grades were so bad, so I thought I can't really, apply it anywhere else. So I was like, okay, now I have 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
And like a lot of the school time is going to be about game design and 3D. So the rest of like all of my free time, I was drawing like constantly. And I had a good bunch of friends who, were also very hyped on making it. So we were working, late at school together, and yeah, it was really good, like good times.
You just need that small clique, just a couple of people.
Who want
I
to
mean,
aim high?
it's difficult even. Yeah, even with the Discord, it's difficult because I mean, like there's 300 odd people in it, but you're lucky if there's 2 or 3 people in the chat, even at the best of times. I mean, it's hard to. I mean, I know people have got their lives, especially with COVID. Like people are getting sick of being at their computers, they maybe don't want to stay there all night. But I want to try and form some group where we could be sitting in the chat, working away, talking. I mean, it's happened a few times, but it's rare. It is getting more and more rare because I think the more we sat behind the computers during the pandemic, I think people just started to get eventually sick of it and wanted to be out more.
Yeah,
So
yeah. I mean, that definitely happened with me, but that wasn't like the pandemic. It didn't feel very different for me. Like my routines was pretty much the same. I was always staying inside and painting, so it didn't matter. But now that I've made it, I can have a good sustainable living out of this.
Right.
Now I've started looking elsewhere a bit, like, hey, what are all the other things I didn't do? And what
Right.
like, and now I want to do those. So I've been trying to get out a lot more, and I don't feel I have I don't know, I'm just pretty sick of working all the time right now anyway, and that might change later, but
Yeah.
it's just been so much so much of
Yeah.
that.
No, I mean, we've all experienced burnout, and I think me more than others, because I've developed this thing that I hate where I can't switch off from the industry. Even when I'm away from my computer, I'm always looking up talks or demos or thinking about reference, or it's kind of the brain mentality. You have to have, I think, to make it, right? That you're constantly trying to hone your craft or think about the next thing or chase emails or respond to stuff when you're out.
Yeah.
But it becomes all consuming, and I kind of hate the fact that, like, it does become, it's like a lifestyle, right? It's like a thing where it's just so much of your life is wrapped up in it. And it causes so many, I mean, especially during the pandemic, like, I developed, I think, one medical condition in general, like my eye. I have this thing in my eye now where, like, it's kind of like stinted a bit, and and like I now have to wear glasses, and my health in general has just went down the fucking shitter. So
it does. Yeah. Fuck, man, I feel you.
Back problems, all that kind of
I've
shit.
had it all. Like I burned out. That was a couple of years ago, but that was like the big, hitting the wall. And before that, I was working, 12, 14 hours a day, maybe, like every day, constantly, just grinding. And then I don't know what. Yeah, I had, like I was eating bread, and I got stuck a bit of it in my throat, and
okay.
I don't know, that like triggered something in me, that everything that I had been building up, and after that it was just like, so I couldn't work or do anything pretty much for a couple of months. But then, I mean, that's the thing, when we were back in those groups, it was always like, oh, you gotta grind, you gotta always work, but no one tells you
Hustle
about
culture.
yeah,
After Effects.
exactly. So
yeah, it's difficult, man. I mean, it's one of these things that I've been lucky the last maybe 2 years, and since I left and I graduated in 2018, I've had freelance gigs here and there. I mean, it's nothing major, right? I've not had any huge 9-to-5s. The biggest thing that came was last year when I worked with Fabricated, and I got that gig back in July last year, and now that's going to come to an end, or will come to an end next month, and that was a good year because that was like a steady paycheck every month. The work wasn't too hard. Like, it was great. It was challenging in a way, but it wasn't like I was killing myself again. Like, I was at my computer. You know what? We would work our 8 hours or 7 hours, whatever it was, and Matt would say to us, right, get off the computer, go outside and enjoy. He's a very big advocate of, he doesn't want people, because he'd done it for years, working for like Lucasfilm and Disney and stuff like that. He worked, crazy hours, and people were like sleeping at the studio, and he's like, I'm never going to enforce that on people. That's the old way of working. I don't want that to be the norm. So we got to have our weekends off. We got to just, it was good to be able just to, like, the whole pressure that just like fell off me when I had that gig. And it's just unfortunate now that their funding is kind of like slowed down, and they're going in our direction. So the thing I was doing isn't available anymore. But it's just one of these things. I think with the industry, it's hard to sit still. I think the issue I had when I took that gig is that I kind of let everything else lax, and because I was so pent up from trying so hard for so many years, so I felt like because the pressure was off, I could relax. But it's now got to a point where I'm back on my feet, and I've got this gap, so I'm trying to use it to better my art again. But yeah, it's difficult.
oh wow,
it is really
that was
difficult.
a long
was that a long one? Oh god, yeah. Sorry guys, we're having technical difficulties. We have to chop bits and pieces of this interview together. But
yeah, you said something. Last thing I heard was he had worked for Lucasfilm and all the ways of working.
Yeah, basically he didn't want people to be like sleeping at their desks and hunched over for 12 hours and stuff. He was like, that's bullshit. So he's like, yeah. But then that's the thing is, I said when I took that gig and I had that whole year, I became quite lax, and I think a lot of things slide because I was so pent up and burnt out. I wanted to have a break, but now I'm in the bucket where I have let things lax, and now because I'm leaving this gig, I'm having to now build more stuff to find another gig. So
God, it's so hard. That like when you're touring, because I'm like, even if I'm like doing quite a bit of creative things. I like writing, and I like I'm painting, doing the work, and I want to paint my own shit, and I have so many things I want to do, but I've like the hardest thing for me to accept is just I can't. Like it's right now my brain can't deal with that, and just accepting that has been incredibly hard. But then just like finding other things that I find maybe not equally fun, because I don't think like when I'm on when you have flow with art, it's like the best drug. It's like incredible.
Yes.
Everything just works out. You like an idea pops into your head, and your hand just translates. Like whoa,
Yeah.
okay. um, that is a very cool feeling. But yeah.
But then it's like a drug, right? In a sense that you can get addicted to it. You will chase it constantly. And if you can't get back into it, you're always like getting so frustrated. Like, oh, fuck, man! Like, come on! I just want to just feel what I'm painting. Like, just But I've even experienced it with 3D. You can get so into a piece that time does fade away. Like you look up at the clock, it's been 4 hours. Like, Jesus Christ!
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's yeah. I mean, but then it's very particular, I think, as well, to just the artistic pursuit we have as well, where you're painting for the entertainment industry or you're painting bigger things, because sometimes the project gets you at that state as well. Like if you're working on something really cool, like if, because you now have worked on D&D for Games Workshop, stuff like that. So
I haven't worked for
and
D&D,
also,
but
okay, right, no, specifically, interesting. So what was the one you were doing with Games Workshop?
Yeah, I can't talk about it yet. But
Okay, right. So you're still. I mean, you would have done. So the stuff in your past, have you only just started recently working for them, or is that stuff you've done also in the past
I
as well?
have worked, but that was through another company.
Right. Okay.
And then now I worked for Black Library just recently,
right. Okay. Right.
and
okay.
that,
Which is an offshoot of what they're doing.
and that hasn't been released yet.
Yeah. No, I mean, like even the Arcadia stuff you're doing as well was really awesome. Yeah, that was really cool stuff. Covers you were doing for them.
Still am, but right now I'm trying to get rid of all the freelance work, actually.
Right.
Because now I'm just gonna try to have the full-time gig, because they've been very nice to me. Trying to keep. I only work lesser hours than normal, and they've given me a good pay and everything. But then in return, they of course want me to not burn out with other projects on the side. So, and
yes,
then that is very reasonable of them. So yeah.
So Black Library would be like your now kind of like full-time gig. That's what you're trying to do, like kind of 9 to 5 Monday to Friday kind of thing.
Black Library.
Yeah.
No, that was like before this. I just started the concept art gig 2 weeks ago.
Right. Okay. So is Arcadia the thing you're doing more full time now?
I can't tell yet.
Oh, okay. Right. So the thing you're doing now is the thing that you can't talk about, right? Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that's fine.
But I guess it will be revealed eventually. But it's gonna be.
I mean, at least that's good, right? I mean, at least you're in a place now where that is happening.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very rare to find that gig where
so rare.
What's
it's just insane. Yeah. I was recommended by a guy in a Discord channel I'm in with some German artists, and he got into this pre-production on this project, and he recommended me, and I got in, and I don't know. I was like, you get in, you're super nervous, and you want to perform, so I totally overperformed.
Yeah.
And they were like, "Oh shit, okay, he's fast, and he's doing good shit." And I was like, "Oh fuck!" Now I set a high standard for myself, and I was trying to keep that up, and eventually I told him, like, I can't keep this up, it's impossible. But then they were happy enough, so they brought me on, for there's going to be a couple of years, and it's going to, it's a big project, but it's going to be a big team and a lot of money involved. So it's kind of nerve-wracking as well, but I don't know, I like being in that situation too,
That's good. Is that so even just because you've just announced recently as well that you've started working with Blizzard, right? So is this also a separate thing from Blizzard? Right, okay. Oh, you've got a lot.
I have so much.
A lot of stuff in the fire right now, Henrik. You're busy.
Yeah. And I was approached. There was that week when I told this company that we'll do this, like, let's go the full-time thing. there was I think there were 6 other companies reaching out, and they were like, "Hey, do you want to work with us? Do you want to start here?" I was like, "What the fuck is going on?" You know?
Rain
Yeah,
Porsche.
it's just stupid. It just felt silly, you know, because I've never had that.
So many offers.
Never. Like it feels like it comes and goes, you know, but I've never had that many. So it just felt insane. But of course, very cool.
I think you're getting a lot of traction as well, though, right? Like there's a lot of publicity now about your stuff, and you know your stuff's kind of getting out there, and people are seeing your work
more and more, yeah. And that's very cool.
Yeah. I mean, I think you came back on my radar even last year when you were posting some stuff, and you know other artists talking about you, and we were in Paul Canovan's chat as well, like his stream. He was talking about you as well, about how much you loved your stuff.
Yeah, he's always very nice about all of that.
Yeah,
but
Paul's a lovely guy. Paul's one of the nicest guys in the industry I think I've ever met. He's so genuine about his approach, and it's just such an honest dude.
Yeah, it's really just helping people so much as well. It's really inspiring to see him. I don't know. He's a very good guy.
Doing his stuff. Yeah. I'll even link a bit down below for Paul's Twitch channel because it's worth. He studied with his channel. It's worth investing in.
Very entertaining, really and you learn a lot too, for sure.
Yeah, he's also a good entertainer, but he's also a really good artist. On top of that. It's funny. I mean, I bumped into Paul years back when I was hanging with some other artists, and very quiet, very keeps to himself. But then you look at his ArtStation, you're like, wow, you've worked on such incredible stuff. And he was even working on a Legacy of Kain, like a reboot, you know, to the whole series. Like there was concepts he's got in his ArtStation that are from that, like that reboot they tried to make, and it never happened. But I was like, Jesus Christ, like it's one of my favorite.
You're gonna
IPs.
find with me that I don't know any IPs. Like I just feel so.
The Legacy Kain stuff. Oh yeah, that's old school. It's quite an older.
But like whenever someone is like, "Hey, dude, this artist posted new work," I'm like, "Yeah,
no idea."
I'm afraid so. Like I'm not. I just feel so stupid sometimes. Like I should be more invested in everything going on.
No, but I think because you've spent so much time in your craft, right? Like it takes away from other things like keeping on. I mean, I'm probably too involved in the industry to a point that I can name multiple people and I know multiple games and IPs, you know, like it's because I'm a fan also of that genre of, you know, I love games, I love movies. So, but yeah, you know, Legacy of Kain was an incredible series. It was Amy Hennig wrote it back in the day at Crystal Dynamics, and she eventually went on to write the Uncharted series for Naughty Dog, for Drake and stuff like that. So that was her first kind of big.
Sounds so familiar. Legacy
of Kain was about a vampire called Kain who is murdered during it's like a high fantasy, so he's like a knight back in the realm, and he's murdered, and he has a chance to come back basically from the dead as a vampire. He gets an offer of coming back to kill his assailants, but it's kind of like a cursed thing where he gets to come back, but he comes back as a vampire, and it's a whole. It spawned a series of games called Soul Reaver. As well.
I was going to say it's connected to Soul Reaver.
Yeah. So that's basically Kain in the first game basically does his whole thing, and then he gets to rule over the land. And in the second game, Soul Reaver, he creates an army of lieutenants of other vampires, and Raziel is one of them, who eventually gets betrayed and gets thrown in the lake and becomes blue and has wings. Right. So yeah. But the writing behind it was incredible. The whole lore that Amy wrote for that was, you know, astounding. The story that it spans, and the whole story of like how the vampires came to be, like the Hildren, and how they kind of came into the world and how they got cursed. And the whole thing, it's incredible. If you ever get a chance,
I
check
totally
it
should actually. This looks awesome. Yeah. I remember I loved Soul Reaver. We had that on PS1, PlayStation 1. Yeah,
probably the first one was PlayStation 1, I think. Yeah,
me and my brother had it, and I thought it was so awesome.
No, Soul Reaver's the whole story of Raziel is incredible. It's a really big, long. I think it spanned over a little bit 5 games, but yeah, the writing behind it was incredible. Especially the way it kind of the last game in the series kind of ended the story, and there was a kind of bit where it was like, there might be something else in the future. But yeah,
awesome.
Everybody's waiting for it, man. There's so many people that I even posted a fan art thing the other day using AI stuff, and people were like, "Oh, I can't wait for that game to come back." Like, there's so many people wanting to just resurrect.
Give me more.
Give me more. So yeah, the older generation. But yeah, so I mean, when it comes to this stuff, like Paul is on the button with art. He's a good dude. So yeah, check him out. But yeah, so I mean, talking about being on the streams and stuff like that, yeah, just your name definitely came up a few times, and then I've seen your stuff kind of pop up on ArtStation, and it's got popular.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's one of these things. I think just the years of grinding have paid off. Right, you're getting to a point now where you're kind of reaping the benefits of that hard work.
Of course. I mean that's just that was one of the things I had, as I knew it just felt like a natural law. Like if you put enough love into something, it's gonna pay off eventually. And I had that in the back of my head all the time. So I think that's why I sort of dared to believe in what I was doing, like that there was a place for all of that. It just didn't exist.
Yeah, because we had this conversation not too long ago on Facebook. We were talking about this whole thing about I didn't think your style would appeal to a mass market because, like you see what's popular right on ArtStation. You see the stuff that people will look at or do or make replicas of. But your style was very unique. Was very, was still technically great. But then it looked it belonged in a particular place, and I thought that'd be harder for you to find that particular place. But then you've obviously you've done well. So
I think my style is I think it feels a bit old, old school.
I was going to say, like more like the early D&D books, like the stuff you used to see in the fantasy manuals, like when you were young.
And I think that's why it appeals, because I think in a way people get a bit nostalgic, because I think a lot of what I like to create is based on my own nostalgia, over growing up playing tabletop RPGs and stuff like that. But I've only been doing illustration up until now, really. But then, I told them when I was in the interview with these guys, like I've never done concept art, but I can draw and I have ideas. So if you're willing to, take a chance with me on that, then let's go. Like I'm ready to try, And I mean, turns out it's not that different anyway. It's all about come up with cool ideas.
I was going to say you've got the base level stuff. Yeah. I think it's the hardest thing about being a concept artist. I think people don't get, especially younger students, is design. Design is hard to teach. It's one of these things you really have to learn it for yourself and go through those rigmaroles, those kind of foundations early on, because people think that drawing's enough, but then design language is a big thing as well, right?
Yeah, I agree. And just like doing it enough until it's like, for me, I've been very like intuition driven and very, just going by feeling. So I don't like, it's always been very hard for me to explain my mental process when I'm creating. Like if someone asks me, hey, how do you think about this? I'm like, it's like my brain is telling me, hey, something is missing,
Right.
But I've been thinking that I should sit down sometime and actually break it down, partially because I would love to, pass on some of it, but also for my own sake, I think it would, just be interesting to understand why my brain thinks something is missing,
Yeah, intuition is one of these things that it served me well as far as the podcast and doing other things in my life, but then it definitely is one of these things where I may not be a professional level artist, but I now have an eye that's trained enough that I can look at things and see why something doesn't work as opposed to why it does. Like even when I look at student work, I mean, I'm not, I would say, a huge professional in the sense that I've worked in a big AAA space, but when people hand me student work and I look at it, I'm like, all right, okay, and I'll turn it and be like, yeah, this bit you could do that. Like I can give enough feedback from my stance that I know kind of what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But it's hard because it takes like years to train that. You have to just consume for a long time, and then you start to feel what's off. It's like an uncanny valley.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, you can definitely start seeing what's not working. It can be just small things, and sometimes it's like a hand looks weird, but it's because of style, and it's cool. But sometimes it just doesn't look good, and it's weird, and you're like, okay. So yeah, it's tricky.
And you're working, I was going to say as well, with the thing you're doing, because it might come more intuitive to you because of the way you're working, but are you traditionally painting and drawing these things and then scanning them in? Or are you working exclusively in Photoshop and digital tools?
Digital.
Which I think is incredible, because up until this point this morning, I thought you were still doing things traditionally, and then no, because like I know, because there is people I know who do like oil paintings for magic, right? And then take huge photos of them and then they become the cards. So I thought there might be a transference process where you were maybe doing some stuff traditionally and then importing it. But yeah, that's even crazier that you can get that style with digital tools, right? That's the even crazier part.
I have been tinkering with gouache and things like that because I wanted, I've always been a big fan of the traditional artists, Paul Bonner, Jesper Racing, and people like that. So I've been playing around with it just to see how it works, and then I've been trying to emulate that. And it's also been I have had a lot of ideas about restricting myself when it comes to, like, I don't use any layer options. I only use normal layers.
Okay.
And I try to merge everything. So I often use work on 1, 2, or 3 layers.
Right.
Which is, I think I wanted to do that because I wanted to understand, like really understand how color works or how whatever works. I didn't want to just pull some sliders and get there. I've been very
Yeah,
harsh
of
on
course.
myself, but it's also it's very interesting because when I sit down with paper and color, I can translate. It almost looks the same,
Right.
because it's like it's not far off.
Of course.
So it's been kind of interesting, but now I've started using some aid, to make life a bit easier. I'm not as harsh.
You've not got to punish yourself constantly. I mean,
Exactly that. Exactly that.
Yeah. It's kind of like the monk mentality, right? You're going to be, I'm going to starve myself. I'm not going to eat anything until, I've done so many things, or I'm not going to, I mean, it's not to get too personal here, Henrik, but you have a partner, right? You have a significant other. So, I mean, yeah, one of the saving graces I've had is having Diane in my life the last couple of years, and her just basically being like, you don't have to be as hard on yourself. Like, just take it easy, stop overthinking, get away from the computer. It's difficult. I mean, I even watched a thing recently with Proco where they were doing an interview at Comic-Con, and one of the guys was saying that the reason he has balance, because we're talking about balance as an artist, and he was like, the only reason I have balance now is because I have a kid, right? So I have to physically pull myself away from the computer to look after them. So I mean, like, if I didn't have that, I wouldn't stop drawing.
No.
So yeah, I think there's a whole mentality when you become an artist is that you have to suffer for your art, which I think is a really old way of looking at things, and it's probably why we have so many problems.
Yeah, it is, and I know I've been very ready to suffer for it. Like I've been very okay with feeling like shit just to, for some reason, I don't know, like, because I think that was just the mentality we were taught, or that was like the common. And even when I was in school, they were like, talking about crunch and these, what's it called, dead man's march or whatever, it was like super crunch. And they were like, I was like, okay, shit, I guess that's how the world is, and everyone is going to be an asshole. And they were just painting up this horrible picture of what the gaming industry was supposed to be, and I was like, okay, well, if that's what it takes, let's fucking go, let's go to war. But then it turns out, you get out there and you talk to someone and you're, oh shit, they're nice. What's up? Why are they so nice? It's not supposed to be like this. Oh, why do they want me to work less? Oh, they want me to feel well. Holy shit.
Yeah. That's crazy. Yeah.
So
yeah. I think it also comes from, the United States as well, because, they for a long time were kind of the keepers of the magic, right? Where they were making games, they had lots of studios, there was a huge success over there. We had it in a small portion in the UK, especially in Scotland, right? We had the guys at DMA who eventually become Rockstar North, who made Grand Theft Auto, but and they were one of the worst for crunch. Like there was a whole thing back in the 90s or the early 2000s where the wives of the artists were out protesting in front of the studio because people weren't coming home. It was that bad. So I think because also the industries, especially games industries, are so young. I mean, if you look at the film industry 100 years ago, before it really got on its feet, before the unions came along, before there was working time directives, that was a bit of a shit show as well. So we're still fighting off the 90s mentality of making games. I think it's games itself are still a young buck in the entertainment industry, although they generate a lot of money. But yeah, the working practices are getting better. They're talking about unionization now, so I'm just hoping going forward that it's going to get less intense. Although I think the problem with you also is that you've chosen to walk the illustration path, right? And that, in its sense,
not
is
nice.
a grind and hard because anatomy, color, composition, tone,
there's a lot of things. for sure. And I mean, I don't know why it's like, standard to pay so little in illustration. I don't know why that is. Like, I think it's just very outdated like pay scale or whatever. I don't know what it is. Because now that I got into the concept art thing, there's completely different type of money. And I was like, okay, yeah, that's awesome. It's very nice. But because I love illustration, I really do. But it just wears you
Money's not
out,
great.
or it
Yeah.
wore me out anyway. Because I'm a
Well,
go
that's.
on.
I was going to say, just quickly, I think the thing that was related to that is if you look at comic book artists, right? So comic book artists, in a sense, are some of the greatest illustrators on the planet, right? Because those guys, anatomy-wise, composition, panels. But then a lot of those guys, that's why I didn't go for it, because I knew the pay was terrible. There was just not a lot of money in it, and a lot of those guys now work in animation for the reason that it just pays a lot better. There's unions, there's better projects. They don't have to draw as much, but because they built that talent, that skill, then they walk into these jobs like that. Like, people are desperate to have them because they're so well versed at storytelling.
Yeah.
So
it's so strange. Like, I don't know why some things pay so little like that. Because I mean, like you said, comic artists, they're so incredibly good. Like, because they have to be. And I had a friend of mine who was like, sort of getting into it a bit, and he was going to do some cover for something, and the pay, I was like, what? For a fairly big company as well. I was like, what?
Yeah.
It's just not sustainable.
I had a friend. Yeah, I had a friend in the UK years ago who done a run of Spider-Man for Marvel, and I think it was about 13 issues, and I think that year he made about £9,000 for the whole project.
13.
For 13 issues. Crazy. So I mean, like, so this is the level we're on. I mean, this is why I think I aim towards the entertainment industry, because I knew, especially with 3D now, I think it also helps because it's a technical skill, right? And you tend to find that these people get technically better pays because the technical aspect is in it, right? Or you must know more because you know a program and blah blah. But then it's like, the computer's doing technically most of the hefty lifting for us. We're just telling it what to do. But like, with illustration, it's book covers and stuff like that, and the more traditional route, the money is very scarce, and I think that's why people try to sell out eventually and get into stuff like Magic and the bigger companies like D&D and stuff like that, because they obviously pay a lot better and have bigger projects. So I think at just one point you have to sell out. It's hard to do it because you want to keep an integrity, but then at the same time, it's where the money is.
It's incredibly hard. Like, I've been a bit lucky, getting in on some, like, I don't know if you know who Free League Publishing is, but they're kind of a big deal in the tabletop RPG market.
Okay, no,
a Swedish company that's like, it's going really well for them. And one of my art heroes, Alvaro Tapia, he was like the main illustrator for one of their games. But then I don't know, he moved on to something else, and they brought me in to sort of fill those shoes. So that was kind of nerve-wracking. But I got in, and I illustrated. I just finished it recently, 2 whole books that are going to get released this autumn, I think. And that was, kind of cool to, when you have full control over a project, sort of, you get to set the style on everything, like covers and interior illustrations and all of that.
Right.
And I mean, then illustration is like, it's more fun, and it's a bit more, it gets a bit more reasonable because you can have a bit more demands, but still, it's like, I'd still make half the money I would do from concept art,
right?
While working 75%. It's so silly. And I don't know how to make it better, even like what we would have to do. We just have to, put the foot down collectively and demand more,
The power, unfortunately, capitalism, right? It always lies with the studios. They've got the kind of last end say of how much people are getting paid. But I think it's also a thing where one of my friends years ago made a kind of point to stop working with smaller kind of, I'm not going to say crappy companies, but just people who weren't prepared to pay the way that he wanted to be paid. And when he made that mindset change, the offers came in, right? The whole mindset changed. He kind of made himself feel a bit more classy, like, oh, I'm not going to just work for like, you know, $75 a cover, like I want 750. And people were like, oh, I'm never paying that, because I know he done some work with Fantasy Flight, who traditionally don't pay great, right? No. So and he got to a point where he was like, I'm done, I'm not going to do anything anymore with that company, I wanted to move on and do other things. And then he started getting offers from Magic and other people, and the pay was obviously a lot better. You know, he was getting 2,000-3,000 in illustrations.
Exactly.
So so I think you've got to take that mindset switch. And you know, it's even with me in 3D. You know, I have some people who will be like, oh, you know, I'll pay you like, you know, I don't know, $20 a model or something. I'm like,
$20 for a model.
Yeah, for a whole model. But then it's like there's people who are on Fiverr who advertise like, oh yeah, I can do, you know, 50 models for $10, and I'm like, it's a race to the bottom. It's horrible.
Jesus Christ. I have no idea how it works in 3D. Like, so you get paid per model usually, or is it?
I mean, it depends with the company. Usually, the way I was working with Matt was it was a per day rate, right? So I was on about $150 a day, something like that, 200 depending. And then over the month, obviously, you were working 5 days a week. You know, $3,000 plus dollars. You know, was on a month. But yeah, I mean, a daily rate is usually what most people will go for. I think 3D is the same. You know, you say it right. You know, my daily gets me 8 hours. I'll take an hour for lunch. You know, so 7 hours probably solid work. This is my rate. Here's what you pay me. The project will take 4 days, you know, so there's whatever it's going to be. Because you start, you know, getting to the nitty gritty per illustration, then it starts to get a bit more technical, or per model. So yeah, you tend to just work for a day's worth of work is what people try to.
I mean, that's the best. I mean, if you can have that, yeah, it's just so nice, and it's like very, I don't know, just a lot less stress, you know. Because like with illustration, it's like, hey, you get 200 for an illustration, then you want to finish it in a day, you know. That would be the best.
Because it's
And yeah, luckily I've been, you know, fairly quick as well. But God, yeah, it's a lot of work all the time. Like I remember last year I was on a sprint. Like I had so much work, because that's the stupid thing too. I accept everything. Yeah, because I get so excited. You know, I love when people they're like, oh, I have this project. I'm like, ooh, okay, show me what you got. You know, and then I have accepted too many things, and all of a sudden there's like, you know, 3 deadlines in 3 days, and I got to finish 15 pieces or whatever, and that kept going for 4 months. I was working 7 days a week, all days, for 4 months, and by the end of that, then I was like, okay, I'm gonna take 3 days off. Yeah, right, 4 weeks, you know, because once you start resting, catches up.
It sinks in. You're like, oh yeah, I'm quite enjoying this. The fact that I'm not panicking.
Yeah, exactly.
Constantly.
Oh, nice. So this is what it feels like to rest.
I can watch a movie. I can play a video game.
I can watch movies all day if I want to. This is pretty nice.
Yeah. It's the double-sided coin with freelance, right? If you're not in a full-time gig, is that like you're either bursting at the seams trying to get stuff done, or you're sitting watching movies all day. That's the two extremes, right? That's which is hard, because then I think that's why, especially at my age, right? I'm 36 now, so like I'm getting to a point where like I just want someone to make those decisions for me. I just want someone to come in and be like, here's your work for the day, and go away. You know, as long as it's creative work, I don't care, because I've came from a background where I was an engineer. Also, while I was at university, when I left that job, I worked in shitty part-time jobs at supermarkets, at game stores. You know, I know what shit work is. So like, if I get to work for a games company and they're like, here's your job for today, here's your job for the week, right, great, fantastic. You know, I'm happy to do it. But then it's hard to give up that control. And I think for illustrators, especially like the way you've came up, you want more control over what you're making, the autonomy, like of, I want to set styles, I want to make this my project, in a sense, I want to have my footprint on it, you know, where it looks like the stuff I've done and have traditionally done.
I agree. So, I really, I mean, I really like freelancing, like freelance illustration, but I just don't like I like the lifestyle of it, you know, where you can pick, like you can choose when you want to work, or you want to be like, hey, I'm just going to go get out of town for a couple of days, and you can do that because no one is going to check you or whatever. But it's just the pay that's been the problem, and I've also sometimes, you know, it gets a bit lonely, so that's been pretty interesting now. being in a team, and you're like, oh, it's not all on me anymore, but I've also been very fortunate with this job that I'm working on now, because they brought me in as lead concept artist, so I'm getting to set the style, like usually, or a bit, it's not all on me, of course, but I get to have a say, which suits me very well, because I like that, blank canvas. Hey, use your imagination, which is like, what I'm good at. So I really enjoy it so far.
Yeah. I mean, even as a lead responsibility, it's good as well, because then you've got people under you. Like, you're kind of getting a bit more traction in the industry, where you get a bit more like say of what people do, and a bit more authority, which is difficult as a balance, right? You've got to not become a
There's
dick.
so much. Oh no, I don't think that's like, I don't have that in me, but I can see what you mean.
Yeah.
Like it can easily come with power, of course.
Yeah,
But
of course.
I don't think that's gonna happen with me. Hopefully, and
No, I don't think it would either.
if it did, I hope someone slaps me really hard.
No, of course, yeah.
So I stop it, But no, I don't think that's gonna be a problem.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot of new things to learn for sure. Like with illustration, you're like, I'm just gonna paint another pretty picture and chill, do whatever I want. But now it's like, we got to work certain hours, got to be in meetings, got to be learning, about, because I don't know much about Scrum and stuff like that, so I got to learn all
No, of
about
course,
that.
yeah. The harder stuff, the technical aspect, the admin stuff is always a bit harder for artists, because you're not used to putting that part of your brain on. So
I was like, just tell me what to do and I will do it. But
yeah, so you want me to draw? Cool, I can do that.
pretty much. But
yeah, but it's good that I think it's, at least you're experiencing it now, because there's so many people I know who are illustrators who were very object to that. They didn't want, being in a team, working for a studio. That was a whole like, I'm never going to do that. I'm never going to touch that with a barge pole. Like, but at least you're open to the idea of like,
I wanted to experience it at least once, and also I was kind of sick of I don't know. I think art for me began as a way to. I didn't have a lot of confidence or self-esteem, so it started as a way of, hey, I'm I can do stuff too. I'm someone. And eventually I've worked with, after the burnout and all, I've worked a lot with myself, and now I didn't have that need anymore as much. And then I was like, okay, so why am I doing this? And I had a bit of a hard time recently where I wasn't sure why I was creating anymore, or why I chose creating over something else. So I thought, it would be nice to just try something else too within creating, because I was kind of sick of just pumping out illustration after illustration,
content.
and I'd done that for so long, so it's kind of a welcome change as well. Just see what else, and I've always wanted to do that at least once in my career. And if I continue working for studios after this, I have no idea. Maybe I will go back
Once the thing's finished. Yeah, I mean, it's been, like you say, it's a couple of years worth of work, so it's like there's enough time in there to really get a feel for either yes or no. Like you'll definitely know by the end of it, how you feel one way or the other. So
exactly.
Yeah, I think it's good also because of the team you're working in. Like if it's not like a massive studio, it depends on the size of it. But like I know people who have went in, and the thing that spoiled it for them is they work for these like huge companies, and you really do feel like a number there, because they have 500-600 employees, and you're one of one department, and people don't really recognize you by your style. You're kind of adhering to other things, but yeah, I mean, at least you've had the legacy of doing the illustration thing first, and then coming into, as an established artist.
Exactly. I was always very concerned with that, regarding like working for a studio as a concept artist or something, because I met some people and they were like, yeah, well, sometimes you just get shoved into a corner and you get to design doors for 2 months. I was like, that's not for me.
Yeah.
So I think this job I got now, like, I've seen, concept art gigs pop up now and then. I was like, oh, I should apply. But then I was like, I don't know. But then I just got pulled in to this, and they were like ready to give me a lot of freedom. And, I get to do a bit of writing as well. If I come up with ideas, I can write down like lower bits, help building the world as well. So,
that's awesome. Yeah, the blue sky stuff I think is interesting, especially from where you've came from, where you've had a lot of idea generation. So when you're getting to flex that muscle more, it definitely is probably something you're happy to do, because it then pulls on other parts of your creative mind, like you said, with writing and other things. Not just illustration. You're not just somebody who's pumping out content, and even that with concept, like you're not having to do full illustrations, so it might even be a relief.
No,
of
exactly.
that. You don't have to.
Now it's more just like world building, in general. And I don't even do much, like super much drawing at the moment. Now it's more like collecting references, writing down ideas, a little bit of sketching here and there, and I like that variation a lot, at the moment anyway.
Yeah. I mean, it's good. Like it's like just a change of pace might be even just what your brain needs.
I think so.
It might just be one of these things that you've been go constantly for so long. Now you're getting to at least slow down a little bit, and like I said earlier, reap the rewards of your grind. So
that's the plan anyway. Like, because I'm going to try to get rid of all the freelance and then just work I have 6 hours a day. 6 hours. Yeah. That's it. That I'm going to focus on, because I have some, stuff like that developed from burning out and depression and all of that I want to take care of.
Yeah.
And then just the physical health, of course, too, which easily deteriorates when you just sit at home so much.
Yes.
So
I'm living proof of that, buddy. I'm right there with you. So yeah, I mean, it's difficult as well, because one of these things where you want to put the brakes on, you want to stop for as long as you can and try and take a break, but it's just it's difficult because you're in this whole thing of you want to improve because you don't want to stagnate, you don't want to get worse. So it's like, well, how do you balance that with also having a life? Because for a lot of people, they can go to their work for 8 hours a day, then come home and sit and watch the TV all night, right? They don't have to think about their work. They don't have to think about what tomorrow's going to bring, the next thing they're doing. It's just like, just show up at 9 o'clock and
it's not that type of field. Really?
No, exactly.
It's because it's more of a lifestyle, like you said, and more of a like it's a very passionate driven thing. Maybe not for everyone, but for a lot of people, that's the case. And I guess you're just gonna have to, in one way, learn how to live with that. But I think when I've kept up, going on long walks every day, no matter if I felt like it or not, that has really helped my brain sort things out
mentally.
Yeah, partially just because, getting the blood pumping around in your body, and partially just having a moment where you can't, work or anything. You just start walking. You're just looking at your surrounding. You're just hearing familiar nature sounds and all of that. So I think that just helped me a lot. Just keeping up some healthy habits of some sort, something to lean on. I don't know. It's very tricky, but I know it's very tricky. I know it's very, very tricky.
No, I think it's also why 3D now is appealing to me more, and the fact that I want to work for someone. I think I just want to have as much free time outside of that as I can. So if I'm not having to worry about where the work's coming from, if I'm working for a company, and they're doing that part of it, and they're also, working out the pay, they're giving me money every month, it then alleviates some of the pressure from me. Whereas I think if I went the concept route or anything like what you're doing right now, like then you've got to pay a price of sourcing your own work, constantly being at the helm where you have to be better and better. I mean, with 3D, obviously that's the same thing, right? You can get to a point where you're also constantly, you don't want to compare the two as like one's easier, one's harder, right? Like they're both equally hard. But I think with 3D, there's a point you can get to with 3D where you're hireable and your stuff is good enough that you don't have to maybe improve as much or as quickly, and there's not as many foundations underneath it. Whereas with drawing, the whole emphasis is on your line work, right? So if you draw something that doesn't look proper or isn't in perspective or isn't foreshortened properly, then yeah, sure, that requires more grind and more working out. And whereas with 3D, a lot of that stuff is figured out already for you. Perspective, light, and color. That stuff is like it's not like you can click a button and things work for you. But then I think there's more sacrifice has to come with pen and pencil.
It's a bit like unforgiving, but 3D, I guess, is more technical. Got to learn a lot of technical things and stuff like that. I've been looking into learning some 3D now for the, just to get some aid with perspective things or scenes or whatever.
Yeah. It wouldn't hurt. Yeah.
So
I think even either in Blender, but mostly ZBrush, like sculpting, I think would be something that would come more naturally to you as well, because you've done so much anatomy studies, right? And things, your anatomy things, the way you look at things as well, is that I think building those projects in 3D that you've drawn in 2D would be a good transition between the two as well. So
sculpting is nice. I always liked that. When I was 1 year in art school, the sculpting was fucking awesome. I thought it's really nice.
Yeah, I think that would be a good natural progression from where your skill set is now to where you want to go in 3D. I think building those things in
more dimensions. So you think ZBrush would be my thing more than Blender?
I mean, I think because with most 3D programs you're learning, the first essentials of those programs are usually hard surface. So you're building boxes and cylinders and things that would be mechanical in nature. So guns, weapons, generators, all that kind of stuff. Oh, okay. Oh, sorry. Again, technical difficulties, guy. We'll cut it off soon, but 3D. So when you learn 3D initially, it's all the more hard surface stuff. So mechanical stuff like boxes, cylinders, guns, weapons, swords, all that kind of stuff. But with ZBrush, it is a more organic flow because you're physically sculpting the clay, right? So it's more like you're drawing with 3D.
Yeah, maybe that's what I'm looking for. True.
Yeah. Also, if you can invest in it, VR
seems very cool.
Yep, Oculus have a program, a couple of them, Gravity Sketch and some other ones, where you will be able to physically sketch with the hand things. And then also they have really good games as well. That's great to do. Like I was playing Resident Evil on Oculus Quest the other two.
I tried that at a friend's place. I'm very easily spooked, so that was fucking scary.
Yeah. No, the Quest 2 is great because the Quest 2 has all the 3D capabilities in the headset, so you don't have to hook it up wire-wise to any computers or anything. You can physically just put the headset on and walk. You can go outside in your back garden and do it, like, because everything's in the headset.
Wait, so the Oculus
Quest 2. Yeah,
shit.
I think it's called the Meta Quest 2 now because obviously Facebook's changed. It's no, but yeah. So I think it's about $300, $250, something like that for the whole headset.
Not more.
That's the reason I liked it, because when I first started with the Vive, you had to put 1 million cables into the PC to make it work. But with the Quest, everything's in here, so yeah, it's less setup, less.
I gotta keep more updated. Like I don't.
Yeah. No, the Quest 2 is definitely what I would recommend if you want to get into VR, because it's very easy to set up, it's very easy to use, everything's built in it. So
cool though. Huh.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, so I think we're going to quit here because like our internet is just being unforgiving at this point. So welcome knows what's happening, but we'll probably get him back on at one point to talk more about his process and other his thoughts. And yeah, you definitely. I hope you've enjoyed it.
Yeah,
you found
for sure
some. Yeah, man. If you guys have listened to this point, thank you. As always, it's great to have you guys all here for the ride. And if you have any questions for Henrik or anything, any comments or any feedback, you can leave them down in the comments.
You can always write me.
If you're listening. Yeah, definitely. I'll leave all his details he wants me to leave. I'll leave them down below. But if you're listening on any kind of audio side of it, Spotify or Google Podcasts, iTunes, anything like that, we also have a YouTube channel where you can come see our pretty faces and see us talking. So you can come down over here and leave some comments down below for as well. And again, that's pretty much it. Thanks to Henrik for coming on. Thanks to you guys for listening.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course, man. More than welcome. We'll have you back on at one point, definitely. And that's it. We'll see you guys later. Thanks, guys. Bye.